In this video, I'm going to be sharing how I've managed to save over 80% of my income. I'm going to be sharing some strategies, some tricks and tips, and anything related to saving money. So be sure to stay to the end so you don't miss anything. Before we get started, I just want to make sure that you have a goal in mind. Now, it's going to be very important to have a goal to make sure you stay focused throughout the process. And this goal could be from anything from paying off some debt, a down payment on a house, a vacation that you've always wanted to go on, or simply saving up that emergency fund just in case something happens. Now, whatever your goal is, just make sure you have one, and once you do, we can get straight into the video. What's going on, you guys? If you're new to the channel, my name is Brad, and today we're going to be talking about saving money. Now, when it comes to saving money, it really boils down to two different things. It is either cutting your expenses or increasing your income, or just a combination of the two. But before you apply one or both of these strategies, it's important to figure out where your money is going in the first place. Now, I know tracking your finances is not going to be the most glamorous of activities. However, it is going to be the easiest way for you to figure out where you can start to cut back. Start going over your bank statements once a week and documenting that information. Now, I'd recommend either writing it down using an Excel spreadsheet or downloading one of the many apps in the App Store. This will give you a better idea of what sectors your money is going to. Once you've started tracking your spending, you can start to implement another strategy, which is setting a budget for yourself. If you set yourself a budget on a daily or weekly basis, this is going to give you a short-term goal to aim for, and this will help you stay focused for your long-term goal that you've set for yourself. I also want to note that it's going to be important for you to not set a budget super strict right at the beginning. Now, it's going to be more effective if you set something more reachable that you're comfortable with. That way, in the short term, it's going to be more achievable, giving you more confidence in the process. And once it becomes normal, you'll be able to cut back on a regular basis until it's just regular practice. Even though budgeting can be very effective, I realize that it's not going to be for everyone. And just having extra money in your account will make it very easy for some people to just go over budget. And once you go over budget once, it is going to be a snowball effect from there. But I have an alternative strategy that you can use to avoid going over budget. And what that is setting up automatic withdrawals from your main bank account. Now, if you set up these withdrawals from your bank account into another account, which is less accessible, you're going to be forced to budget with the money that you have left over. Now, the idea of this is kind of paying yourself first. And this kind of reminds me of a famous quote from Warren Buffett, which is, "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." Now, this concept of paying yourself first is by far one of my favorite strategies, because once that money is out of your account, it's very easy to imagine that it was never there in the first place. All right, those are some of the most effective strategies that are going to be useful in the beginning steps of starting to save money. And the next thing you want to do is start to look at your expenses and figure out where you can start cutting back. And some of the easiest things for you to cut are going to be your online or digital subscriptions. Now, if you have subscriptions to things like Netflix, Spotify, Disney Plus, HBO, these are going to be the easiest things to cut first. I mean, let's be honest, who even watches HBO anymore since that Game of Thrones disaster? But if you must keep one or two, consider sharing with friends or family. That way you can share the cost, or each of you can have one subscription and then you just share the password with each other. That's a very effective way of saving some money. And the next easiest way to start cutting back is going to be on your food expenses. Now, there are some more obvious ones, which are not eating out, not ordering in, and absolutely do not buy your coffee every day. Instead, consider cooking your meals or making your own coffee at home. Best thing you can do is even start meal prepping. If you buy in bulk and you make a big quantity of one meal that you can eat throughout the week, this is going to be a huge money saver, and it's also going to save you a lot of time. Another lesser talked about way of cutting down your food bill is going to be watching what you eat. Now, if you're eating food that has empty calories or has a really high oil content, this is going to make you feel full for a shorter amount of time. And if you're not feeling as full, you're going to end up spending more money on food to satisfy your hunger. Instead, maybe consider eating more foods that have a higher complex carbohydrates content, and that's going to make you feel full for longer. In turn, that's going to make you spend less money on food, and it's also going to make you feel better in the long term. Not only is it going to make you feel better, but it's also going to be better for your health. And that kind of brings me into the next area of our spending, and that's going to be our health portion. Now, you want to be careful on cutting back on this area, because if you start to let your health slide in the short term, that's going to set you up for a financial disaster in the long term. Because if you don't watch your health now, you will be paying for it in the future. Because medication, hospital visits, all these types of things are very expensive, and it's only going to get worse as time goes on. However, there are ways to cut back in this area without actually compromising your health in the short term. And one of those things is if you have a gym membership that you're paying on a monthly basis. Maybe consider doing your exercises at home, or if the weather permits, going outside. Doing that's going to save you a lot of extra money. Another big one is going to be alcohol consumption. Now, I know this is kind of tied in with food like we've already discussed, but large quantities of alcohol is terrible for our health, and it's also terrible for our wallets. If you start to cut back on your alcohol consumption, you'll be able to save a small fortune. Now, the next area we're going to look to cut our costs is going to be our transportation costs. If you have a vehicle that you are making payments on every single month, consider downgrading and getting out from underneath that loan. That's going to help you save a lot more money. Or you can even reconsider owning a vehicle in the first place. There's a lot of alternative options like ride sharing or public transportation. You could even start cycling everywhere you need to go. If you eliminate your vehicle altogether, you'll be able to save on fuel expenses, maintenance expenses, also insurance expenses, and all of these things do add up. The next area we're going to look at is commonly the most expensive for most people, and that's going to be housing. However, even though housing is the most expensive normally, it also has the potential to be reduced the most. Take into consideration where you're living in the first place, and maybe it'd be more feasible for you to downgrade or move to a less expensive area. Okay, that's a little bit dramatic, but you get what I'm saying. Another option, if you still have it, would be to move in with family. Now, I know this isn't the most ideal of circumstances, however, it is a great option to be able to hold on to some of your income. You could also consider getting a roommate or renting out a portion of your home. This is also known as house hacking, where you can rent out a portion of your home. That way you can reduce the overall costs of it for yourself. If you do decide to go this route, you'll be able to divide up any utilities and extra expenses that might come up. If you want to shop around for different utility providers, like water, electricity, internet, whatever it might be, there's probably more than one provider in your area, and if you shop around, you could probably save a significant amount of money. Another option you might want to consider is reducing your housing costs and your utility costs altogether by starting van life. Now, I know this isn't going to be for everyone, however, this is something that I have been doing for almost a year now. And because of this, the savings have gone up dramatically. But if this is something you want to see a video on, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see if I can make that happen for you. Those areas pretty much cover all of our basic needs. However, let's be honest, there is quite a few more places that we are spending our money. And it's a very good idea to have a system in place which will allow you to avoid any unnecessary spending. And I'm quickly just going to share the system that I have, which I use on a regular basis to avoid any excess spending which will allow me to save the difference. So I'm just going to break down real quick the system that I used into different steps. Now, the first step that I use is by asking myself, do I really need this item? Is it going to benefit my life in any way, or is it just going to end up collecting dust? If I do think it's going to add value to my life still, then I'll move on to the next step in the system, which is to sleep on it or just avoid buying it then and there. This will avoid any impulse buying because the idea of buying something is actually more exciting than receiving the item in the end. It's also known that shopping releases dopamine in the brain, and this causes buying out of boredom. So by waiting a day or two, it might make you reconsider if you really do need that item. And even after a day or two, if you still think you need it, then we'll move on to the third step in the system. The third step is asking yourself if you can get it secondhand. Now, there's good online classifieds like Craigslist, Kijiji, or even Facebook Marketplace where you can look for any item you want secondhand. And chances are it's probably going to be in pretty good condition if you get it off one of these sites. Another way you can look for your items secondhand is through thrift stores. Now, you might get it a little bit more used, but a lot of people impulse buy, and instead of trying to get rid of it themselves, they just donate it to a Salvation Army or something like that. This can set you up for some pretty good savings if you can get that item secondhand. And if you can't get that item secondhand and you've made it this far and still want that item, then the last step is to just go and buy it. That pretty much sums up the system that I use whenever I'm going to make a purchase to avoid any unnecessary spending. Now, there's just one more area in this video that I want to cover. If you've gone through everything so far and you're just unable to make any cuts, the alternative is to increase your income, which I mentioned in the beginning of the video. There's literally hundreds of ways you can increase your income. So I'm just going to cover the easiest ones in my opinion. Now, the first thing you can do is get a part-time job to supplement your income from your full-time job. Or you can simply increase your hours if you're able to at your full-time job. Now, you just want to be careful that you do not run into getting burnt out. Another thing you could do is you can work off commission or do deliveries. Now, these types of jobs will allow you to make your own schedule so you can work when it's best for you. And this is a good way of avoiding burnout and also supplementing your income. The third option, which I've done many a times, is sell your stuff. Now, you can go through your entire house and start taking photos of things that you don't use anymore that don't bring you any value. You can go onto the online classifieds that I mentioned before. You could use Craigslist, Kijiji. You can even use Facebook Marketplace to get rid of some of these items and make a little bit of extra money on the side. There is also a great documentary called Minimalism, which can give you some inspiration to selling some of those extra items that you might not have otherwise just had laying around. Those are just a few of the quickest and easiest ways to increase your income, in my opinion. But like I said before, there's literally hundreds of ways you can increase your income if you need to go that route. Okay, I know that's a lot of information, so let's just do a quick recap. First thing is, set a goal. Second thing is, track your finances. Third thing is, to set a budget or pay yourself first. The fourth thing is, cut down on expenses and avoid unnecessary ones. And the fifth step is, if you can't cut back or you just want to save faster, increase your income. These steps are going to be the foundation for your financial success, and hanging on to these skills is only going to help you down the road. With all that being said, I hope this information was helpful for you and you are able to take something positive away from it. If you have any money-saving techniques that you like to use, I'd love to hear it in the comments section down below. Also, remember to smash that like button. That lets me know that this video wasn't a complete waste of time. And consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks for stopping by and watching this video, and I'll see you next time.